The kitchen door closed behind him and she heard him go upstairs. A memory of him as a child returned. She remembered waking up in the middle of the night with a mother's intuition that something was wrong and going into his bedroom, fearful of another illness after the meningitis scare. She had found him crying. "Why is it," he asked her, "that the good things don't last and all the bad things go on and on?" One of those unanswerable questions that children throw at you. And what kind of child would have thrown out such an unanswerable question? Well, that child was me, actually, asking that very same question to my dad at 6 years of age. A story he related to Bryan Forbes, the English novelist and film director. And Bryan ended up working that phrase into a book called Partly Cloudy. Now, how is it such an unlikely turn of events would happen that something I told my dad at 6 years old would end up in the novel of a famous English writer? Well, back in the late 90s, my old man bought a house, like a townhouse, condo type deal, at a pretty nice place called Gainey Ranch there in Scottsdale, Arizona. And his next door neighbor happened to be Bryan Forbes, the English novelist, screenwriter, and movie director. My dad had also dabbled in the film business, so they were easy and fast friends. Bryan Forbes' lovely wife, Nanette Newman, is and was also a prominent figure in English culture. She used to have a cooking show, I believe, and her daughter is like a well-known children's author, I think, or maybe the daughter had the cooking show, the mom's the author, I don't know. But it's a well-known family in England. Really cool people, hilarious, tons of funny stories about all kinds of famous people, Hollywood characters, the film business. But this story is about my meeting with Bryan Forbes in England, and I guess it would have been around 1999. And it all has to do with a novel he wrote called The Twisted Playground, which I adapted for the screen. But my dad didn't want to tell Bryan that I was the one who had written the screenplay, because maybe he didn't want like Bryan thinking that, you know, he was trying to slide his kid into a nice screenwriting job, which to me is the old-fashioned way of doing it. I would have much preferred that way, more like, hey, my kid's a screenwriter. Let's make something happen here. You know what I mean? Instead, I wrote this entire screenplay with a fake name, which this is my real name on this one, a second version, but the original one, I can't even remember the name I used. It was something stupid. It was like a porn star name. The book is called The Twisted Playground. To be honest, probably not one of his best novels. It's kind of a turgid saga that involves child porn and stuff, and it's real weird. But we thought maybe we'd have a crack at getting this thing made into a movie, so I wrote the screenplay for it. And my wife, Donna, who was not my wife at the time, but was living in England, she was going to school there. I was going there to visit her right at the same time I was writing the screenplay. So I finished it, I went there, I met with Bryan Forbes. This is like, I didn't have to wear a disguise or anything. My dad, you know, told him that it was me that wrote the screenplay. It was a weird deal. But like many meetings about screenplays in Hollywood or anywhere else, they usually end up just going nowhere. So screenplays get written that just stay in drawers. Like this one right here. So if you're interested in a weird-ass story, try The Twisted Playground. If you're interested in another crazy story, tune in tomorrow for my next wild story. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe to the best of my recollection.